So maybe you felt it. It was another kind of presentation, or it was not authorities presenting regulation. But now we go back to authorities working with regulation, and I'm really proud and happy to present to the stage my matching colleagues. Please, Mads and Nana, working at the Danish Authority of Social Services and Housing, come to the floor and share with us some of the really nice work that you are doing to implement this regulation in Denmark. This one works. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. Before I give the word to Mads, I will give you guys a brief overview of the political agreements on climate circularity and the utilization of existing building stock from a Danish perspective. Thank you, Mads. In 2020, the Danish Parliament passed the Danish Climate Act. And the purpose of the act is for Denmark to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 70% by 2030 and to become climate neutral society no later than 2050. And the Climate Act was followed up by a climate action plan that contains 8 points, including the national strategy for sustainable construction. It had 21 initiatives. It was from March 2021, and it included the introduction of climate requirements for the construction. This was followed up in 2023 by a supplementary agreement on recycling, where it was decided to reward recycled materials positively with 0, as we also saw earlier today. And the supplementary agreement from 2024, which is the one that we will make a deep dive on today, it was decided to tighten the climate requirements further. The agreement from 2024 also contains a number of new initiatives to promote sustainable construction and renovation. We will come back to that. In the Danish Authority of Social Services and Housing, where Mads and I work, we have merged all of this down to it's called helhedsorienteret bygningsreglement in Danish. It is a strategy for revision of the building regulation, which is our plan on how to implement all of these political agreements on sustainable construction. It contains 18 initiatives that form the basis for a thorough and holistic audit of the building regulation in Denmark over the next couple of years. So we will take a deep dive in, can you click? Thank you. A deep dive into this supplementary agreement from 2024, and Mads, you will start.
Yeah, so as Nana said, we had these initiatives both for new construction and for renovation, and I will present this for the new construction, which is mainly our LCA requirements. So the agreement added a tightening of the limit values today. In the first strategy, they had some stepwise tightening of the limit values, but a political agreement made the limit values even tighter than what was expected in 2023. And yeah, stepwise tightening the limit value further more in 2027 and 2029. Also, this agreement added a differentiated limit value based on which building typology that you have. First, it was for buildings over 1,000 square meters. Now we have for single-family houses, we have for office buildings, and yeah, residential buildings. So it's divided into different building types now. Then we also added the construction process, and we have expanded the scope of buildings. So before it was all buildings that need to fulfill the energy requirements, that need to make a documentation for their climate footprint, and building over 1,000 square meters that had a limit value. Now it's a lot of buildings, mainly all new construction, that need to document the environmental performance, and we have limit values for almost the same amount of buildings. The main part is that the limit values don't apply for some kind of buildings that are critical for the for critical buildings in Denmark. So we have, for instance, prisons, hospitals that are not required to fulfill a limit value, but they still need to document the environmental performance of the building. And yeah, this is the main life cycle that we're looking at in Denmark. So as Buntan presented earlier, we have the EPBD that we need to follow in the future, and when we have to implement that. And there are some modules that we don't include today, but we need to look more into. But today we include the production stage, the construction stage. Then we have some modules from the use stage. We have the replacements, and then we have the operational energy, and then we have the waste processing from the end of life stage. And then you need to document the D module with the benefits and load stage. And as Nana said, we have reused materials as zero through the whole life cycle, except from the construction stage where you need to calculate the transport and the installation of reused materials as all other materials. And yeah, the construction stage is a new part in 2025 that was not included in the original agreement from 2023. This is the limit values as they look today. We have an average limit value of 7.1 throughout all building types. And yeah, you can see them divided by building type. And then we have the construction process with a limit value of 1.5 for the construction process itself. So yeah, that's divided into two different limit values, one for the building and all that process, and one for the construction process itself. Then a bit about digitalization. We are looking into, or first of all, we have made a mapping of some classification systems that are mainly used in Denmark to make it easier to compare the building models between what program you use or what software you use for modeling and what the requirements has in the building model. Then we have a project that made a exchange format that is called LCAX, which makes it possible to convert a calculation from one tool to another and compare calculations from different tools against each other. So you can have one project calculated with one tool and another project with another tool, and then you can compare the calculations and the different types, the different elements in the building. Then we have a voluntary standard for handing in the calculation in Excel, so you can fulfill that. And I know that some tools have it included, so when you are making your calculation in a tool, you can just export the results in this format, but it's still voluntary today. And then hopefully we will soon get the first steps of an analyze looking at IT architecture of how to hand in your calculation and how to store the data and analyze on the data afterwards.
Nu tror jeg godt, jeg kan begge dele. Sådan. All right. Regarding the existing buildings, that is my main focus. So the political agreement also states that energy requirements for the conversion of existing buildings must be relaxed. That was actually help me here, Mass mid this year actually got implemented, right? Yeah. That there should be a focus on promoting the transformation of existing buildings in the city centers so that more housing can be created within the city center, that it should be investigated how demolitions can be avoided, and last but not least, that new rules must be developed to make it easier to utilize existing buildings when rebuilding, renovating, and changing the use of the existing buildings. And these new rules must be able to be applied instead of the rules that apply to new construction. So this is one of the major focuses on the political agreement. So, or maybe I should just say that parallel to all of this, there is this fundamental revision of the building regulations throughout the whole quite big package that we have developed in Denmark. All right, so with a greater focus on promoting the use of existing buildings, it makes perfect sense to actually take a closer look on how we can ensure fewer demolitions in the future. At present, no legislation in Denmark grants authority to preserve a building based on climate or resource considerations. So with this project that we are currently working on right now, we are in the process of investigating whether a new assessment system can be established where the municipality can reject maybe an application for demolition of a building when objective considerations make it appropriate to preserve the building. And furthermore, we are investigating if it's possible to introduce some kind of demolition fee, some kind of economic something corresponding to the environmental and climate impact that demolition may cause. This is work in progress and an ongoing project that is both very exciting, but also very demanding and difficult, also due to all of these demographic changes and differences throughout the land of Denmark. But the results are to be presented for political discussion in mid-26. So, fewer demolitions talks for more renovation. This is two sides of the same coin, and because there is a focus on promoting renovation rather than demolition and new construction, as I said earlier, new rules must be developed to make it easier to use and utilize the building stock. Before new rules can be implemented, the current rule must first be clarified. And why is that? We have made a quite thorough analysis on how the industry experiences challenges. Where is it actually in the requirements that they face big hinders and barriers? And we have realized that there is actually a lot of confusion on or among the industry and the actors on what is actually the requirements to renovation. Many interpret actually the rules more restrictively and than they actually are. So we are now working on clarifying the current rules so that it's clear what a requirement, when and which requirements apply in renovation. And we work specifically with renovation definitions to ensure both coherence across the technical chapters, but also that we make sure that we actually talk about the same steps in a renovation. That is what we call step 1, making it clearer. Step 2, this is where the magic happens. We are required to make proposals for easing the requirement levels. And we will examine how to ease this to ensure that renovation is not only similar to new build as maybe actually the first choice. And this is quite an accelerating time for us, and methods and principles are to be developed at the beginning of 2026. And as with the proposal for how do we deal with demolitions, this is also by mid-26 that the politicians must be met with some kind of, I hope, big, beautiful catalog that we can give them. That is actually what we have for you today. Both Mads and I will be here all day, and we'll look forward to more discussions when we join the table discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both to Nana and Mads, for a very interesting presentation. So you can hear a lot of things are happening in the political system next summer is very soon. So thank you very much for sharing this. We now have the last presentation from the Nordic construction authorities, and then there will be time for a few questions, and then we sum up for this part of the morning session. So the one I will now invite on stage is Elin from the Icelandic Authority of Construction and Housing, who's been working in the Nordics for a while, a longer time at least, and have a lot of really interesting new information from Iceland. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for a great day here in Copenhagen. This forum is very valuable for us in Iceland, both to learn from all of your experiences and to share our current work. My update will cover three things: where we are with the LCA regulation, our digitalization pathway, and initiatives to optimize the use of existing square meters. Under the northern lights in Iceland, a photo taken last week in my garden. And here are the LCA regulation. As of 1st of September 2025, an LCA submission is required with a building permit application for new buildings at medium and large scale. Smaller structures where large crowds do not gather and no one has permanent residence are not excluded. They are excuse me. Smaller structures where large crowds do not gather and no one has permanent residence are excluded. That includes storage, holiday cabins, shelters, and huts. And the confirmed LCA submissions forms part of the permit documentation. We require one LCA at the design stage with the building permit application. And during the adaptation period in 2024, we consider also requiring an as-built submission. However, we chose to start with a single mandatory design stage submission to support a step-by-step learning process and establish a strong common baseline. Most of buildings' carbon is determined upstream. The structural system, the materials, and operational energy are set before construction begins, and that is why LCA is mandatory at the design stage for us. We hope that this approach will help build a solid foundation and bring everyone along so data quality and decisions will improve right at the start. At the same time, we strongly encourage an optional as-built LCA at completion, and we are collecting market experience now, and we will propose emission benchmarks and limit values once the Icelandic dataset is large and reliable enough. In broad terms, the LCA required by the building regulation must cover the major life cycle phases: product stage, transport to site, construction processes, replacement over the life cycle, energy use in operation, and end of life. The assessment must include the main building elements, systems, and technical equipment. This provides a full view of whole life carbon beyond upfront emission. To encourage the circular economy, reused materials are recorded with zero carbon across the assessed phases. The aim is to shift choices toward existing stock and secondary materials wherever quality and safety allow. When project-specific data or EPTs aren't available, we provide Icelandic average values for the main phases. All background data must be traceable to its source database, and we encourage the use of Icelandic specific data and product EPTs whenever it is possible. And if generic data are used, we accept recognized Nordic databases for common materials clearly documented in the submission. All LCAs in Iceland are submitted electronically via the HMS LCA portal with structured fields, basic validations, and an upload of the results file. Applicants must provide building metadata, the type, the size, the extent, and the LCA software used, and phase-by-phase results. Next step is to link the LCA submission with the National Building Registry. So there will be just one central entry for all building applications and a persistent lifecycle record from design to demolition. We consider that an essential step toward full traceability and a better analytics. The Icelandic Construction Roadmap, a joint program of government and industry, includes a new action set to begin shortly to make better use of existing square meters or existing floor area, both in today's stock and in new projects. We will promote, or we want to promote, flexible design and establish clear pathways for change of use, and the work is set to identify what municipalities need to run cases consistently, practical guidance, checklist, and a simple process flow for change of use applications. We will also map regulatory and process barriers, distinguishing quick wins from topics that need broader reform. Partners with HMS in this project are, among others, the Green Building Council in Iceland, the City of Reykjavik, and the Icelandic Association of Local Authorities. The outcome here is set to be more adaptable buildings, fewer demolitions, and faster delivery of needed uses, especially housing, while reducing the whole life carbon. Another project, one of Iceland's priority is to get more from the buildings we already have, and our aim is to cut emissions while delivering homes by favoring the use of existing floor area, over than demolitions and new build. We are focusing on underused commercial and industrial buildings that can reach residential quality with targeted upgrades. To make this practical, we are preparing guidance for municipalities to map areas that are currently zoned for commercial or industrial use, but show credible potential for housing. Locations with strong access to service and transport, feasible daylight, and acoustic performance. And of course, sufficient structural capacity to meet residential standards. In parallel, we are providing or will provide concise guidance, checklist, and standard documentations so case handling for change of use becomes consistent and predictable across the municipalities. The benefits here are clear: lower upfront global warming potentials by avoiding demolitions and new materials, shorter delivery times because core structures and utilities are already in place, and better use of existing infrastructure, all while safeguarding quality and safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elin. Please stay, and I will also invite Nana and Mads to the floor, because this is our last chance for questions. Please come up to the stage. Yes, thank you very much, Elin, for a very interesting presentation. A lot of things are happening in Iceland, and I think there's a lot of inspiration to get from each other, different ways of solving the similar challenges. Are there any questions from the floor? Yes, Rune and then Kai. Please, again, say where you're from and keep the mic close.
Yeah, perfect. So there's
And stand
apparently
up.
going to be a lot of questions from university. So my name is Rune Svedin, and I come from the Technical University of Denmark. And I think my question is for Mads. So in terms of, for example, regulation on energy and fire, that sort of thing, if you don't comply with that, then you would normally be forced in a new constructed building to like apply changes so you fulfill the requirements. But if you apply changes with a building in terms of CO2, then you just increase the amount of CO2, right? So what have you built into the legislation in terms of making sure that new construction also fulfill the new very ambitious limits?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I think that, as you said, we cannot build any more in or remove things and put a new thing in with a lower emission, because that will only make the emission higher. But in the regulation right now, if you don't fulfill the regulation for climate, you will need to, or the municipality will need to, what do we call it, hand it further to the police in Denmark that will find out how to fine you for that. So I think the only possible way to do anything about it is to fine the people that build today, because yes, as you said, we cannot remove and put new materials in or just add materials, because that will only make it worse.
Thank you. And Kai?
Thank you. This is Kai Konafani from Aalborg University in Copenhagen, Denmark. A question to the dilemma in renovation to the Danish authority. Are you considering or planning to relax the energy requirements for existing buildings? And if yes, how do you justify this in terms of reducing the building stock energy demand?
Who should take it? We can help each other.
We can help each other.
Good question, though.
What?
Good question.
Good question. I actually don't know what to answer you at this moment. We are starting next year on these principles and guidelines and methods on how to set the level for renovation. So, and I'm not a technician. I'm sorry, I can't answer you. Maybe some of you can help me.
Yeah. At least I think it's a topic that we're looking into. And as we said, we have already eased some of the regulation when you look at energy requirements, because we acknowledge that there is a balance that needs to be reached when you look into the building at a life cycle perspective. So what we really want to, as Nana have promoted, is shared, is how can we enable this use of the existing building stock in a better way and find a balance. And it's seriously difficult to find a perfect rule that match every specific situation. So we have to find a way that can accommodate most of the political wishes that are there. It's not always we get the chance to dig a little bit deeper and try to find the solutions, but we have that now with the holistic building regulations that we're trying to look into. So we use this opportunity, and this is also where it's super useful that we get input from the other Nordic stakeholders and stakeholders in Europe and other countries, even Japan, that give us other insights that helps us to find new ways. So it was a bit of a fluffy answer, I do know, but just to say that we're aware of these balances and how to look into it. Of course, our energy mix in Denmark and a lot in the Nordic countries are changing. So if you look at strictly at climate, I'm not saying that it's easy to put up wind turbines many places, but our energy mix is changing. So when you have that into calculation again, when some of our materials are produced other places with different energy mix, it makes the picture a little bit more complex. Yeah. Yes, a short one. Thank you.
Okay. I thought about
So it's Mikko again.
Yeah,
Also,
Mikko
yes.
again from Finland. I also took note of the point that easing up energy regulation, because I was thinking at how challenging it will be against the EPBD implementation at this moment, and the kind of challenges that the EPD gives us to renovate the building stock. But the solution to your question that how to maybe ease up in the energy efficiency requirements. Is that at least that the energy efficiency is a kind of flexible term? It can mean the end energy that is used in the building, but also about how efficiently you use the energy in the building and at what time, because the demand fluctuation with the new energy mix is coming more and more important. So maybe you could do a requirement that maybe not that the amount of energy used in the building be used in the right time.
Yes. So I think this is something we've worked on for quite a while in Denmark and in the Nordic countries with the fluctuating energy from renewables. So yes, this is one thing. But I think the new thing for us here is that we look at it in a life cycle perspective. So it's not only B6, it's not only the energy, it's in a wider perspective that we take it into consideration. And I think in Denmark we also have very good energy efficiency policies and a lot of district heating. So I think we, specifically in Denmark, are on a good path there, but we still need to find that right balance. And when we really want to keep the buildings, then you need to make that the first choice. Yeah. All right. Well, then one more round of applause for the presenters. And then I am now thanking you all for being here for this morning session and you online from across the whole world. It's of course really nice for us to know that you're here as well. And thank you for the questions. We tried to cover some of them, not all of them. I have been very inspired and got a lot of new ideas with the presentation today. I think it's really refreshing to get this fresh status from all the countries. I can easily see things are moving. It's there's of course words, but it's also getting towards real regulation. I can see that we can learn a lot from each other, both on digitalization, making it faster, but also very much on what can we do to use the buildings that we have. There's not, as I can see, one silver bullet that fix all of our challenges, but together I think we can really accelerate the knowledge we need to transition our construction sector to a more green, circular and digital construction sector.